Techwebcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Listen to other great tech podcasts at www.techpodcasts.com.
Yo, you are in the right place at the right time, listening to the right thing. Techwebcast. Congratulations on choosing such an awesome thing to listen to. You are clearly very smart. You're into tech stuff. You love hearing Brad and Jason and their guests chat, and you're probably really good looking too. Well done. So let's get into it. The weekly tech extravaganza that is Techwebcast. In 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Welcome to episode 216 of the Techweb Podcast, recorded on the 1st of December, 2012. Techwebcast is recorded every Saturday and rebroadcast on the Aussie Tech Heads on Thursday night at 7 p.m.
Well said.
Host. I'm not done yet. I'm not done. Hosts, Brad, Jody, Steve, and Jason, and Dylan is a co-host. The guest. You can introduce the guest.
That is Mike. You are the guest.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on, mate. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we got
Jody. We had a glitch.
Yeah, that's right. We got Jody on. Hey, Jody.
Hey, how are you doing, Brad?
I'm good. How's your dog?
Ruger's doing great. He, as you know, he won his championship title, and now we're working on obedience.
Good on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good on him.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, he's a good dog. And also got Steve on. Hey, Steve.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh, I'm doing good today. Just got finished with I had a guest on my show, Donovan Atkinson. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. What's he do?
He's like a broadcaster, podcaster, and he also has a business, kind of like a computer consultant business too.
Cool. Okay. Interesting. And also we got Jacob on. Hey, Jacob.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we got Dylan Combs back on after a year. Hey, Dylan.
Oh my God, it's been so long since I've been on Techwebcast. What's going on?
What's going on, mate? You're back on the internet.
I am. I'm back on the internet. I'm doing lots of stuff. I'm since yesterday planning the relaunch of my podcast. I'll get more into that later, though.
Sure. So let's jump into the news first, then, Jody. If you want to do some news.
Sure. Actually, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but evidently Google, actually not Google, Facebook added instant uploads to your photos, and I know how much I trust Facebook. With these instant uploads, essentially, the idea is that you have to opt into the service, but what it allows you to do is have all of the pictures that you take with your Android or your iOS device and have it instantly uploaded to your Facebook page. Now, you can decide whether you want to post them or not, but there's been a lot of clamor about it, a lot of people talking about it, and a lot of concern, and I'm just curious if you guys would opt into the service, or if this is something you would choose not to opt into.
Let's go to Mike. What do you think about this, Mike?
Well, when Google did this with Google Plus, there was actually a little bit of concern by a lot of users. I mean, I personally would do it. I think Facebook is probably a little insane for doing it because they have so many users that it's basically just going to radically increase the amount of data that people are uploading all the time. Already with hundreds of millions of users that they have, the amount of just raw data they have to store and manage. Every picture that they upload, there's like multiple versions and stuff like that. So it's going to be a crazy expensive thing for them. But I think there's going to be a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of, we're going to have a season of whining and complaining about it. But personally, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I really like it on Google+.
Cool. What about you, Steve?
I don't really use much pictures on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook user, but occasionally I do, put pictures on Twitter or Google+. But yeah, so I probably wouldn't use the service just because I'm not a, big Facebook guy, I guess.
All right, cool. Remember that you, Dylan?
I don't like the idea of automatically uploading anything to anywhere at any time. I never have. I don't think I ever will. I didn't do it on Google Plus. I'm certainly not going to do it on Facebook. I just personally don't like it. There's a lot of there may be pictures I take that I don't want to upload to for whatever reason. I don't automatically back up. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So that's just how I am with that.
Yeah, true. All right. What about you, Jacob?
I don't like it one bit because there's a lot of privacy concerns. Like if you have a bad photo.
Is that true, JD?
Well, here's my take on it. When Google Plus allowed it, for some reason, I have a little bit more trust for Google than I do for Facebook. Facebook has taught us over and over again that when they decide they're going to change their terms of service, they change them. And you are opted into things that you didn't think you opted into. Your privacy settings go haywire. Consequently, personally, I'm not going to opt into it. I hope that they don't opt me into it, which is also a scary concern. But I just don't trust. I don't have the same level of trust with Facebook that I do with Google. And I do upload my pictures to Google.
All right.
The other thing that needs to be said also is that I've actually done some tests on the quality of the photographs you upload to Facebook versus Google versus Flickr and so on. And Facebook seriously degrades your pictures. And there are two basic ways currently to upload pictures. One of them is you just you do a status update and you upload the picture. And that picture will be of one quality. And then if you go to the photos and then create an album and then upload a picture, that picture is of a higher quality if you select the higher quality box that you are presented when you do that option. And a lot of people don't know that. But even if you do the higher quality option, the quality of the photograph is significantly worse than, say, on Google Plus or something else. And and Facebook, Robert Scoble and I had a big thing about it, and I demonstrated on Google Plus with side-by-side pictures. He complained to Facebook. Facebook said they were going to fix it, and they never fixed it, as far as I know. So, this instant upload, I'm curious about the quality of the picture. It'll probably be at least as low a quality picture as the standard status update upload option, but it could even be worse because they're going to be, if a significant number of their users are automatically uploading pictures, they may be incentivized to seriously degrade the quality of those pictures just for bandwidth purposes.
I'm kind of wondering if people...
And that's a good point, Mike.
Oh,
I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a good point. And some of the concerns that they have to do with mobile data usage and also battery life. I know, like on my iPhone, even though I have a new iPhone, it's just the battery life is ridiculously non-existent. But a lot of people are worried about going over their mobile data usage plans. Mm-hmm. So there is a way to, I think the pictures are only going to be uploaded over Wi-Fi. Additionally, I think that they're going to be a degraded image. And additionally, if your battery's low, they will not upload. So there's a couple of qualifiers. It's not a perfect system yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was kind of wondering if this feature is going to be enabled by default, to automatically upload. And is some people may not, use it for a while and don't know, because a lot of times that's what happens. A new feature comes out, it's enabled by default, and and then that's when the trouble starts. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
You know what? You're absolutely right, and typically that's what Facebook kind of hits us with. But my impression is with this particular feature is it's something that you have to turn on or opt into.
Okay, that's good.
Although with many features in the past, what Google does is they start with an optional thing, like with the timeline, and then later on they say, okay, now everybody's got it. Mm-hmm. And really, that's if they really, really want people to use it, which they may not. But if they really do, they'll probably just turn it on if history is any guide. They may just want a checkbox item. Facebook is a unique, from a competitive perspective, they're a unique company because they have what I call a monopoly on everybody. They came into existence as an all-purpose social network right at the moment in history when the mainstream masses, when grandma and everybody was getting on social networks. And so it's like a game of musical chairs, and they were there, and Now they have everybody. So now if you try to compare Facebook against Google Plus or whatever, Google Plus and Pinterest and all these other social networks are trying to compete with Facebook on features. We have this, we have that, we have Hangouts, we have instant uploads. And all Facebook has to do to remain the dominant network is just kind of match everybody on features, and then they automatically win, because the reason you would choose Facebook is because everybody you know is there, all your old friends, all your colleagues, which is not the case on any other social network. So this is, that seems to be their policy. Anything a competitor has, they have to have too, and that's all they need to do really in order to stay on top.
I think that's an interesting perspective, Mike. I still come back to trust. And I think that time and time again, Facebook has taught us that we can't trust them. So
but nobody
yes
cares.
And no.
Nobody cares. Go next time you're at a family gathering and the family's sitting around and they're all Facebook users, say, Facebook is really untrustworthy, and they're really watch the shrugs. People, yes, I know. We know Facebook sucks. They're terrible. We don't care about Facebook. Everyone I know is on Facebook, so that's why I'm there. So I've had this conversation with so many people. Facebook users don't even like Facebook for the most part. And they certainly don't trust Facebook. Nobody trusts Facebook. They either don't care or they don't trust Facebook. Nobody says, I really trust Facebook. I've never heard that. But that's where grandma is. That's where the family and friends are. So that's where people go.
Well, we have another interesting development in the news today.
Sure. Move on.
Move on. For those of you who are still PC-based, you may have been noticing that there is a new Windows called Windows 8. And the question then is this actually going to save the PC market? And evidently, there's a new research report from NPD Group, and they suggest that Windows 8 may not be providing the much-needed boost to the PC market after all. Apparently, PC sales have fallen 21% compared to the same period last year. And Windows notebook sales in particular have fallen 24% since the new software came into the market. I'm curious, guys, have you heard any scuttlebutt about Windows 8? Are you switching? Are you upgrading? What's your take on it?
No, Windows 8 sucks. I'm thinking Windows 7. Dylan, what's your view on this?
Exactly the same. Windows 7 for me. Look, I saw somewhere recently that the current Windows 8 market is 1% of all computers on the internet, Windows 8. And at the same point after the Windows 7 launch, it was over 3%. So, I mean, that kind of says it right there. Windows 8 sales are down. They're going to continue to be there. They flopped with RT. I personally don't like it. I won't use it, and I think a lot of people are going to stick with 7, especially in business, which is a huge market. There's a lot of companies still running Windows XP. Are they going to go to 8? No, they're not. When they finally upgrade, it's all going to be 7.
Yep.
And Windows 8 is going to disappear after the next version, just like Vista did. Everyone's going to forget about it. It's just another Vista.
All right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it just another Vista?
People don't like change. People they don't want to leave something behind that they're used to, that they're familiar with, that still works perfectly well, that does everything they need it to do for something that they're unfamiliar with. Why would they do that?
Yeah, the problem is that Microsoft has to finesse the transition to a post-PC world, which Apple is just kind of owning right now. What Apple is really doing is they started with the iOS platform with iPhone, then they came out with the iPad, and in the future there will be 7 or 8 years from now, all of us will be using touch tablets as our desktop displays. All of us, guarantee it. This is the future. This is where it's going. This is a third generation of user interface. First being command line, the second being the graphical user interface, and the third being multi-touch device. And Microsoft knows this. The problem with Microsoft is the legacy company. They're the company that is always backwards compatible with everything, and they're also the mainstream user, operating system for the entire globe. And so they can't do what Apple does. I mean, Apple just burns down the past and just here's the new thing. You have to dump everything you've ever had and buy the new thing. Microsoft's model doesn't allow them to do that. So they've got to finesse their users into this new world, and Windows 8 is that finessing. and it's clumsy, and it's awkward and ugly. And the very thing that's most important about Windows 8 is what we used to call the Metro UI, and that's the very thing that users are going to be confused and frustrated and annoyed by. So it's really they're really in a pickle. But I think they'll probably get there in the long term. They are getting a little smarter. They need to get a lot smarter. What they really need to do is they really need to stop making a big deal out of multiple versions of Windows each time they come out with a new version, and also make a less of a big deal about the number. I mean, they've announced they're going to come out with a new version every year now of Windows. So lock the door and all that stuff. But but that's really what they need. They need to de-emphasize radical new upgrades, make the Metro UI optional for users who are going to be confused by it, and then plow forward with their hardware business, because they're going to be coming out with laptops and desktops. I mean, they're trying to do the Apple model. They're going to be competing with their own partners, and it's a whole new world, and they can succeed, but Windows 8 is going to be perceived definitely as a huge flop, just like Vista.
Yeah, and it might have worked. It might have worked if the Surface had worked. If when you took a Microsoft Surface and compared it with an iPad of the same price, if they were in any way comparable, Windows 8 just might have worked, but they failed to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
the Metro UI is cool, and here's the grand irony of all of it. Microsoft, which is a software company, the world's largest software company, is much better at hardware than they are at software. Microsoft software pretty much sucks across the board, but Xbox is awesome, and the Windows, all of the hardware that they do has been pretty good. Like, they've always done peripheral devices and stuff like that. And the Surface is, for a 1.0, I mean, the Surface is not as good as the competition, but it's a 1.0 product competing against more mature products. The Surface was actually probably in number 2 about major hardware products in terms of being awesome in the first time they tried it. I mean, number 1 being, of course, the iPad, which Apple just completely knocked out of the park with the 1.0 release. But I mean, think about the Surface tablets after 3rd, 4th, 5th generation. They're going to be great. They're going to be really good. And so I think Microsoft's on the right track. They need to see themselves more like an Apple and less like a software company.
Mark, got a question for you. What do you think about the new iPad Mini?
I think it's it's nothing to write home about, but it's great. It's the purpose of it. I mean, I've done some columns on this for since the iPad came out in April 2010. What happened was Apple offered the iPhone, which is a relatively tiny phone, and the iPad, which is a relatively large touch device. And if you look at both the tablet market and the phone market, the vast majority of companies that are making phones and tablets are losing money. And for the most part, only Apple and Samsung make any money. Samsung makes, I don't know, I don't remember what the number is, something like 15 to 25% of the profits in the industry. Apple makes 75%, something like that. And everything else, all other companies divide, 3% or something like that. The only other exception to that potentially is the Amazon Kindle, which loses money on the hardware, but then they make money. So you have a situation where Samsung is making money on a few of their devices. Amazon has a winning strategy with 1 or 2 of their devices, and Apple is getting the rest. And so what you see is that Samsung was making money with very large phones, and Amazon is making money with a very small tablet. So everybody in the industry who's been making money in the last year and a half has been doing it in that space directly in the center well, not directly in the center, but somewhere between the iPhone and the iPad, the old iPad. So Apple's strategy with the iPad mini is to take that away, suck the oxygen out of that space between the iPhone and the iPad. And that's all it is. Well, that's one thing that it is. They're just taking candy away from people who have found that one spot to make money. The second big play is that Apple is a content. They're a company that focuses on content creation, content consumption. They want to own the high end of both creation and consumption, especially consumption. And so they go after, first they went after music with the iPod, right? Then they went off after apps. They're the biggest app company. They're the biggest game company now because of the iOS gaming space. They went after the movie content and TV content. And the big piece of content that they really want to go after now is books. It's a long game. It's a long-term strategy. And the iPad mini is their strategy for that. Yep. Because step one in that march toward owning the book market is education. And this is a traditional market for Apple anyway. So they wanted to push the iPad onto schools around the world. And schools are pushing back saying, are you crazy? We can't send these little kids out the door of our schoolhouse with a highly desirable piece of consumer electronics. It makes them targets for muggings and all this kind of stuff. Like schools, nobody talks about this except educators. And it's the only thing educators talk about, other than the price of the thing itself. And so Apple is coming out with the iPad mini. It's a huge play on the education market. It's a perfect device to be the electronic textbook for school children everywhere. It's less desirable, and its lack of desirability and its lower cost is the very thing that makes it perfect for schools.
Definitely. All right, Jody, next story.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mark, you can anytime you want. You talk about good stuff, mate. Jody, what else?
Next story, speaking of iPad mini, can you believe with more and more people are naming their babies after Apple products?
Oh, wow.
Names like Siri, Mac, and Apple all rose to the top baby name rankings for 2012. So the question is this a sad thing? Is it a good thing? And would you name your baby Apple?
Oh, I got an answer for that.
It's a sign that the end of the world is actually coming. That's what it is.
And do they have to pay a license fee to Apple to use that name for their baby? That's a real thing.
Or you can probably hear someone going, "Come here, Siri! Come here, Siri! Come here, Siri!"
Yeah, my daughter Finder thinks it's okay.
Her name isn't Surface?
Oh no, that would be ridiculous.
I know, right? Or Kindle. It's my daughter, Kindle. I can't even imagine. And, Siri doesn't even answer jokes really well, and half the time she gives you false information. So, it doesn't seem like that would be an appropriate name. What about you, Brad? Are you going to name anybody?
No.
Next dog?
No, probably not. So, yeah, all right. Any other news, Jody, you want to mention? New iTunes came out the other day.
Yes. There's a new iTunes 11. It's changed a lot, but... what's interesting, I know, Brad, you've downloaded it. At first, I felt a little bit lost. It looks a little bit different. What do you think? Do you find it to be better?
I find it more faster and very clean and, really nice to use. I like it.
Were you lost at first, though? I mean, did you find it a little bit difficult to...
No, I found it really easy to use.
Anybody else using it, or...
Mike, do you use iTunes?
Yes, I'm using it.
Okay. What do you think of it, Jacob? What's your view on it?
It's pretty easy. It's just when I got to it, I was like, "What the heck? Where's the downloads?"
Okay. Well, yeah, I have to point that out to you.
It is much warmer and fuzzier, and I always suspected that this would happen because the old the old iTunes used to suck. I mean, the interface was so horrible, especially on Windows, but also on the Mac. Little tiny, remember how tiny the little columns were? It was like a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Where you had to do all this stuff. And I always wondered about that. Why would Apple come out with such a horrible, unusable piece of crap? And Steve Jobs used to talk about it as a glass. He used to talk about iTunes for Windows as a glass of ice water in hell. He said that to Bill Gates' face on stage at All Things D like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And I thought, it must be Steve Jobs. He must be telling people he likes it personally, and they can't fix it. And now, a little over a year after Steve Jobs' death, they come out with a much more friendly, warm, and fuzzy interface. And I don't know. It kind of supports my bogus theory about Steve Jobs kind of forcing Apple to have that old interface. But I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, I agree. Dylan, what's your view on it?
I haven't even really used it yet, but I can't imagine it would be that big of a deal anyway. I mean, the only thing I use iTunes for is rarely backing up my iPad, but I back up to iCloud, so I really don't use iTunes for anything at all on Windows. It's always been a horrible experience, so I try to avoid it at all costs.
All right, good answer. Joe, what's your view on this?
Me, I found it to be a little bit difficult to navigate. I'm kind of in Jacob's court because I think it's hard to find where the downloads are, at least initially. I mean, once you do it a couple of times, it's okay. But, you know, when I first opened it, I was like, okay, where is everything? So, but it does look cleaner. It is a nice interface.
Yep. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I've been probably using it for about a day now. It's finally 64-bit, and I hear a rumor that it might even be multi-threaded from multi-cores. I haven't verified it yet. I do find it a lot easier to navigate than the previous one. There are, a few things that are hard to find, like Jody mentioned. But I probably used it about 10 minutes, and I started getting used to the way, you can find things. It's easier to go from the store back to your library. You still have the, the sidebar if you want to, bring that back if you like that type of thing. Oh, It's very fast, too. It's very, when I click on it, it almost opens up immediately, and it's very responsive.
Very cool. And also the remote app got an update too, Steve, for the new iTunes. And
that's right.
Yeah, the remote app's great. I love the remote app.
I have a good question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
No, it's about the Apple TV.
Yep.
Has anybody else have any, when they're getting their update, has it failed?
No, I did mine the other day. It worked fine. Updated fine for me.
Yeah, it failed for me every time I tried. There's a lot of people in the States that it's failing.
Oh, it's weird. Maybe try again today or something. Maybe it might work today.
Okay, I'll try it right after the podcast.
That's right. Any other stories, Jody?
That's pretty much it for today. I'm curious to speak with our guest today.
Yeah, Mike
Elgin.
Mike Elgin, yep. Hey, Mike, welcome, mate.
Thank you.
And Jody, got some questions for Mike?
Well, first of all, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, because you actually have an interesting profession.
Yes. Well, professionally, I write opinion columns. I've had a long career in technology journalism, starting in like 1991, something like that, where I spent most of my career editing magazines. And my dream, I was a boy with a dream. And I wanted to write opinion columns for a living, and I've been doing that now for full time for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And it's an awesome thing. And one of the things that's awesome about it is that it's completely location independent. And I've written about the location independent, digital nomad, digital Bedouin, whatever the name is, lifestyle for many years. And I've been talking about it for a long time, and finally we decided we were going to do something about it. So my wife used to work for AT&T in Silicon Valley, and finally we decided, you know what, we really, really want to do this. So she quit her job, and we hit the road. And so what we're doing is we took all our stuff, put it in storage, and we packed everything we wanted to take with us into 6 backpacks, basically. And we took off, and we don't know where we're going to live in the future. We don't know where we're going to go exactly. We pretty much, if you added up all the places we want to live and all the time we want to spend in those places, it adds up to like 75 years or something like that. So the hardest part is just because we want to live everywhere, And so right now I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. I have my cousin happens to live here, so we're taking advantage of that fact while he's here temporarily to stay with him. He's got a big house in the fancy part of town, and so we're just like living with him now. But that's what I do. I mean, I live wherever, and I do my work. It's all on the internet. When I want to call people, just punch up Skype. They don't have any idea that I'm in Africa, none at all. And
Wow.
I interview people. I do video conferences. I do Google Plus Hangouts. I interact with everybody on email. I mean, it's kind of funny because when I lived in Silicon Valley, I favor Silicon Valley heavily, and very much favor, especially Apple and Google, to a lesser extent Facebook and startups in Silicon Valley. And when I was in Silicon Valley, I was about, what was I? I was probably like 12 miles from Google, and maybe I was like 17, 18, 19 miles from Apple. And did that mean that I was on those campuses all the time, like talking to people? No. If I want to talk to somebody at Google, I just pick up the phone because I don't know where they are either. And so it was kind of funny, even when I was in Silicon Valley. Like I kind of have a revulsion to access journalism. Like I'm kind of an old school journalist. I started out in the newspaper business, and it kind of leaves a funny taste in my mouth for me personally. I mean, I don't have anything against people who do it, but access journalism, for those listening who aren't aware of what that is basically a journalist who hangs out a lot with the people he covers, goes to parties with them, hangs out with them on the weekends, goes and does things, and then uses that as a source of content and opinion. And I don't like that for two reasons. One of them is that you get a skewed version because people in the industry that you're covering are always trying to spin. They have a perspective. They probably are passionate and believe what they're saying. But I think journalists should generally, I personally want to represent the user as opposed to the industry. And so access journalism makes you a representative of the industry to a certain extent. And second of all, I don't want my opinions to be colored by my friendships or my acquaintances or my who I know. You saw this, for example, when Marissa Mayer became the CEO of Yahoo. All the access journalists were like, she's going to be great. She's a kick-ass person. She's like this awesome person. And it's like, really? She's never had a job anywhere except for Google. Now, having said that, I think she's starting to demonstrate that she actually is, in fact, very good so far. But you can see the access journalism opinion weighing immediately. My friend Marissa Mayer is going to do great. So I try to avoid that anyway. So the digital nomad lifestyle is really perfect for the way I do opinion columns. And it's a fantastic lifestyle. And what I like to tell people is if you can work from home, you can work from Rome. And so anybody who can work from their home office, why are you doing that? Go to Africa. It's awesome.
Well, so what's the next place you're going to go to, Mike? Any other? What's the next?
Spain. I'm going to go to Spain for a while. Probably. I mean, we're probably 80% certain we're going to go to Spain. I want to go to Mobile and Wireless for the first time in Barcelona.
Cool.
And my wife and I just love Spain. We've been there a bunch of times. And, there's this thing called the Schengen area. It's a treaty that covers mostly Europe, but also Iceland and a few other places, where they all share the same kind of visa situation. So, for example, if you're an American citizen or an Australian citizen, you can go to France, right, for 3 months, and then you have to leave if you don't have an extended visa. But you can't. If you leave France, you can't go to Germany, Spain, or most of the European countries because they share the thing. Your 3 months is up in the entire Schengen area. And so this is, and if you want to extend it, it costs like $1,000 and takes forever, and you have to go through Brussels or whatever. I don't know what the process is. So what we tend to do is we're 3 months in the Schengen area, and then we bail out, go somewhere else, and then go back in. You can do 3 months in every 6 month period for the Schengen. So that kind of governs. So after Spain, we're going to have to leave Europe again, and go somewhere else.
Maybe Australia.
Could be. It's an expensive flight, though.
It is. Steve, questions for Mike?
Yeah, actually I do. I mean, considering you're so far away from the United States and, Silicon Valley, how do you get your information that you write about and blog about? Do you use it like telephone call these people or, so how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I always did anyway, and I tended to use phone calls, and I mostly try to keep it to email. But if I need to call somebody, I use Skype or some other electronic means, Google Voice or something like that. to interact with people. But again, my style of journalism is not like I don't go. The only difference is occasionally there would be events or events in California that I would go to, but I tended not to go to New York or Texas events. I tended not to go to South by Southwest. For what I do, I'm not a beat reporter. I'm not covering a beat. If I was like a reporter covering mobile computing, I would need to go and get stories. Like I would need to go and get, find out the information and like try to get early, all that stuff. But I'm an opinion columnist. So really what I write about is I really write about culture, how technology affects culture. At least I try to. And I try not to write about the business of technology, although I occasionally do. I try not to write about speeds and feeds and evaluation of products. Don't do that much anymore, although occasionally I veer into that as well. What I try to do is give people a new perspective about technology and contextualize it into history, into culture, into thinking about, because really technology, consumer technology, these are tools, and tools are adjuncts to the human mind, ultimately. And so I try to take it from the human mind perspective, and I'm always and my deal with I have 4 major people that I write for, and my deal with all of them is that I write whatever I want to write. Like you don't know anything about what I'm going to write. I'm covering any sort of area at all, and it really works out for me because I sort of cast a very wide net in terms of the topic areas that I cover. And then as an opinion columnist, I think to myself, what is bothering me? Like, what is bugging me? Like, something's not right. And for example, everybody has a certain perspective, and there's something wrong with the conventional wisdom there. There's something wrong with that perspective. How can I interject myself and correct that view that people are having? Or maybe a product comes out and maybe my fellow opinion mongers out there are all forming a consensus that's wrong, and that I think is wrong, and and I want to try to correct that. So it's really not something that lends itself to needing to be in any physical location. I read everything, and I listen to everything. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I talk to a lot of people, interact with folks, and then I come up with a big idea and write about it. That's what I do.
Oh, so what's your view on Robert Scoble, Mark?
I like Robert Scoble. He's actually a good person to contrast me against because what he does is totally different from what I do.
Yeah.
Although the casual observer might think that we kind of do a similar thing. Like Robert Scoble is, first of all, he doesn't come from journalism. So he's a kind of a pure blogger. He started out, I think he really became famous as a blogger when he worked for Microsoft. And he was kind of like this liaison type of blogger, and he gave Microsoft a little street cred in the blogging community when it first came out. But his shtick basically is he's like really obsessed with startups. He does cover big companies. He loves Facebook, for example, but he's mostly startups. He gets in there, and if you a lot of the startups that become well known, usually you can look back, and he did a video recording of them like a year ago or 2 years ago when nobody was talking about him. So he walks around, he goes around with his video camera, and he like finds like these really early startups, and he interviews them, finds out what they do and all that kind of stuff. And when he writes and does opinions about things, he really focuses on. He's a very kind of visceral person. He really examines his own usage and his own, like, what bothers him, what he uses, what he does, how he does it, and then he just writes about it. He's like, this is no good because I can't do it because blah blah blah. And it's a really good perspective. I like Robert Scoble, and I like what he does, but he and I are completely different in the approach we take to our opinions and our coverage.
All right, Dylan, any questions for Mark?
Where can I find your stuff that you're writing now?
I'm obsessed with Google Plus, and it's kind of like I kind of use Google Plus as my primary internet, and every single thing that I write, I post on Google Plus, and I post it there first. So really, my Google Plus feed is the one place where you can get everything that I talk about, everything I'm thinking about, and everything that I actually publish.
Wow. All right. Jacob, any questions?
Not really, because they've been all answered.
All right, Steve, I know you've got a question for Mark. Go ahead.
Oh, I know I kind of forgot what it is now.
Didn't mean to cut in. Go ahead. You want to ask him? What do you want to ask him?
So what are some of the publications you wrote for? I think I see Macworld in there, and what other else ones do you?
Well, excuse me. I write for IDG, which syndicates internally. So the main publication there is Computer World, and then I syndicated to PC World and a bunch of others inside of IDG. I write for Datamation primarily, which is also syndicated internally with that network. I write for Cult of Mac once a week. And one of my newest gigs, which is also very interesting and different for me, is a site called House. House has been called the Wikipedia of home design, but basically my role is a gigantic website and a fantastic website, houzz.com. A lot of people in technology are less familiar with the site. People in the home design and home construction and home everything are obsessed with this site. And I'm like the tech guy, so I go in there and I bring the perspective of technology to home design people, and so that's my fourth one. Okay. And one of the but since you mentioned that fact, I think one of the interesting things about journalism and writing right now, and this was definitely not the case 10 years ago, is that it doesn't matter where you write anymore. I mean, in terms of notoriety, people follow people. People follow individual writers for the most part, or they don't care. They just use the internet to search or social media to discover content. And if I was writing on Cat Fancy or New York Times, it wouldn't matter, really. I mean, you don't go and read the New York Times anymore, do you? I mean,
no.
The New York Times stories show up in your stream of stuff, and it's in there along with everything else. And you see something by a writer you like. And that writer may work for the New York Times. New York Times tend to have better writers than average, et cetera. But really, it doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of an interesting phenomena, I think, that's happened, and it's great for us writers who try to make a brand out of our name.
Cool. All right, so Dylan, what's going on with you, mate? What have you been up to the past year? Totally different subject altogether now.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, what have you been up to? What have you been up to the past year, mate? Past year or so, what have you been? We haven't been seeing you around.
No, I was offline for quite a while. I'm back as of about a month or so ago. I got the new site up, blogging and doing videos again over at combstv.com. And I just yesterday announced that we're bringing back the podcast. Tech Soup will be relaunching in January with myself and Felicia and former co-host Kat Armstrong. So that'll be January 3rd, I believe, is the first episode.
Cool. And what's that going to be about? What do you talk about on there?
Tech news, product reviews, software, hardware, security, a little bit of everything, and interviews with whoever we want to get on, all different kinds of people.
Good stuff, mate. All right, well, stay tuned for that. Anything else you want to add, Dylan? What else has been happening? Any other things?
New YouTube videos up on my YouTube channel.
Cool. That's good. Cool. We'll check that out. Jacob, any questions for Dylan?
No.
Steve, any questions for Dylan?
Not yet, but I will check out your YouTube channel, see what you've been up to, or going to be. Of course, you told us some already, but...
Yeah, I seen one with a card reader, something with a credit card thing yesterday.
Yeah, I did that yesterday. I did a quick little review or first look at the Intuit Go Payment card reader that I got recently. I posted that yesterday. I'm also going to be doing video versions of the podcast on the YouTube channel. Those will be there every week once that's going.
I want a Square reader thing sent to me. I want a Square thing. I want them.
Why Square? You can get the Intuit one for free.
Yeah, but I like Square though. I know the guy who works there. Square's cool. It's more popular. I wouldn't use it, but
that's a great reason to use it because it's more popular.
Yeah, I just like it to have it as a souvenir. So So yeah. So Mike, what sort of technology do you use every day, mate? What sort of computer do you have and that sort of stuff?
Well, I'm all Apple all the time, except for I have Nexus 7, and let's see, anything else that I have that's not Apple. I was Windows for most of my life, and I switched over like maybe 3 years ago. So yeah, I found I have a MacBook Pro, and when I used to have a desk, I had a iMac, which I love and, truth be told, miss to a certain extent. But yeah, and yeah, I pretty standard. I one of the weird things that I do is I use my iPad as for work. So I'll write a lot of I write a lot on that. People are somehow shocked by that, but I think that the Apple keyboard with an iPad is a fantastic writing device.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because it's single tasking. You can't multitask, and I need something to prevent me from multitasking.
Interesting.
Well, Jade, any questions for Mike?
Absolutely. Mike, I'm curious because you had suggested that you're doing most of your writing now on Google+. And, with any of the social networks, including Google, the unfortunate reality is that they can change the platform at any time. We learned that with Facebook. All these companies that went out and they created their templates and their, the integration with Facebook and the pages and all that. And then suddenly one day, Facebook decided that was all going to be blown up and gone. And it seems, you've got almost 2 million followers or circlers on Google+, and it certainly is successful for you. But are you at all concerned that this stuff could potentially fade into oblivion?
Well, basically, no, not really. I don't think there's any possibility of Google abandoning Google+. And I don't think there's much. It's so integrated into everything they do. Now they've integrated into Google Play. It's intimately integrated with YouTube, with Google Search, with all these things. And so really, Google+, while it is a social network comparable to Facebook, it's also not that. It's also a social layer. So, for example, one of the massive differences, like I look at it as primarily a blogging platform and the best blogging platform, and I'll tell you why in a second. But here's the biggest difference for a blogger between Facebook and Google+. With Google+, I can click on, I can isolate a post, and I can link to it with its own URL, and I can go on the public internet and say, here's a URL that goes to one post. And it's a page on the internet. It used to be, in blogging, it used to be that a social network was a walled garden. It was off to the side, and the real internet was where the blog was. I've got a blog, and here it is. It's on the wide open internet, and it's public, and everybody can see it, and search engines can see it. And social networks are often the sticks. Now the reverse is true. Now people discover content and interact with content as part of their social streams. And thanks to Google+, both Google+, Facebook, and the others are now, you can post publicly. Used to be you couldn't really post publicly on Facebook, but in response to Google+, now you can. So so now when I do a post on Google+, it's on the live public internet. It's indexed on Google Search literally in like 2 seconds. It gives me identity as an author. So when you search for a subject that I write about, my entry will have my face and like a little link to my Google Plus profile, which gives me higher visibility. And now, if I were to have a blog, that blog is now out of the loop, man. That blog is not, unless it's a Tumblr blog, it's not immediately shareable automatically. It's not subscribable. It's just like this. Blogs that are out there and that don't have a social networking component. Really, you have to drive traffic from social networks to your blog now, because that's what people are living on social networks. So, and I'm also not a curator for the most part. Like I do some curation mostly for my own things. But what I want above all, and what every blogger, I think most bloggers want, even if they're not aware that this is what they want primarily, is really, really good people and lots of them. and that's what Google Plus is. Google Plus, if I have a bogus, an uninteresting post, I post it, nothing happens. If I have a really interesting post, it's unique, it gets shared and reshared, and it's like it's huge, and I could drive massive traffic from Google Plus to my stories to the publishing companies that I write for, and so it's just all good as far as I'm concerned. It's a fantastic thing, and I'm not worried about it. If they were to go away tomorrow, it would already have been a massively wonderful thing. I would already have gained, well over 1 million people who otherwise wouldn't have discovered me, who are now hopefully somewhat interested in me, and I'm not worried about it at all. What I want is a lot of people. I want good, interesting, engaging people, and I've never seen so many as I see on Google Plus. It's a great place for writers.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Google Plus is great. I always get good comments on my posts as well.
Yeah,
it's great. It's pretty cool. So, Mark, do you use it? What sort of phone do you use and stuff? You use it iPhone and stuff?
I use an iPhone. I have an iPhone 5, which is still connected to AT&T, even though I'm not living in the U.S. And just want to hang on to my Google Voice number and all that stuff. But I don't have it yet. I'm still using iPhone 4S. Looking forward to the iPhone 5. It's en route as we speak.
When will you get it?
Probably within a couple of weeks or so. My son bought it and he's shipping it to me.
Okay, all right.
So,
before we go, Dylan needs to go. Dylan, you need to go, mate. Dylan?
Nope, maybe
he went.
Oh, he left. He left. Okay, thanks, Dylan, for being on, mate.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, you have to go, mate.
No, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. So, Mike, you've been on the Twit network?
Yeah, I've been on Twit a bunch of times.
How was it like chatting with Leo Laporte?
It's great, and it's really fun also when I lived in Silicon Valley to go up to Petaluma and do the show live, which is always fun. He's got a great thing going there, and it's really a lot of fun. And it's actually being on that show is exactly like listening, except I get to interact. And I listen to, there are 2 or 3 shows on the Twit Network that I listen to religiously anyway, and it's frustrating that I can't chime in and mouth off and stuff like that. But when you're on the show, of course you can't do that. But it's great. I think it's an awesome thing he's got going there.
Cool. And what shows do you listen to on Twit Network?
I listen to Twit, Mac Break Weekly, This Week in Google, and then those are the ones I listen to. I listen to every episode, every time, and then there are several others that I listen to when I can. Just if I have time, I'll listen to the Tech Guy or like the Security Now, or they have their iOS, their iPad Today, I think it's called. So I catch as many of those as I can. But the 3 that I listen to religiously are Twit, Mac Break Weekly, and This Week in Google. Twig.
Check out the show Frame Rate. Good show.
Yeah.
Good show. Jody, any more questions before we go? We need to wrap this up really quick.
No, we're good. Thank
Steve,
you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, for being on. Steve, any questions for Mike before we go?
I'm good. See you later, Mike.
Hang on, Steve. Jacob.
Oh.
No.
Any more questions? All right, Dylan, mate, where can they get you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at Dylan Combs TV and Windows Guru 84 on YouTube and CombsTV.com.
Sweet. And me, I'm at Brad Oz on the Tech Webcast. Steve, where can they get you, mate?
You can catch me on justin.tv/Linux Cool Dude, and what we're doing right now, of course, on Twitter, which is Chatterbox_live.
All right. And Mike, where can they get you, mate?
You can get me on Google Plus. I have a fancy, awesome URL, which is google.me/plus Mike Elgan, ELGAN.
Wow, that's cool. Jacob?
Nope.
You can just find me out here on Google Plus.
What about Twitter, mate?
Jazzbot32669 1Z.
Oh, yeah, and you met Craig Shipp the other day.
Yes, I did.
How was that?
and he was
Tell-
here for a little bit today.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it. What did you do?
Nothing really.
Hanging out. They were hanging out.
Hey, we were
That is
just.
some great radio right there.
Yeah.
What was it? Was that dead air? No, just kidding.
Why didn't you, Jake? Didn't you go to some restaurant for tea or something? Where'd you go to eat for tea, for lunch or whatever it's called?
Newberry Deli.
Oh, okay. How was that?
Pretty darn good.
All right, cool. All right, well that's great. And shout out to Sam Levin. He's sending me some new headphones.
Yay, Sam.
Good on you, Sam. You're a legend, mate. Thanks, Mark, for being on, mate.
My pleasure.
Come back anytime. You're more than welcome.
Wonderful. Love to.
Yep. And Dylan, you too, mate. Come back anytime. Check out his new show in January. Is that correct?
Yeah, January 3rd on CombsTV.com.
All right, cool, lads. And you're live 24/7.
I am at dylan.comstv.com/live.
Cool as. Steve, you lost the game. Jacob, you didn't lose the game this week, but you will next week. And Dylan, you're a legend, mate. Good to have you back on the interwebs. And yeah, thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
And
Thanks all.
Jacob, what do you want to say before you go? Say something funny.
We all lost the game here.
Hi, Glenn from Aussie Tech Heads. Join Will, Eric, and myself as we bring you the latest, most up-to-date, important tech news that affects you from Australia and the world. Weekly podcast available each Friday through iTunes. Watch the live stream recording of the show at live.thesecrethub.com each Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. or GMT plus 10. Call in live via Skype or chat in our lounge. However you get us, just make sure you do. Listen or visit our website for more information, www.aussietechhead.com.au. Aussie Tech Heads, Australia's longest-running tech news podcast.
Well, that's it for Techwebcast this week. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed having your mind expanded. Tune in next week for more tech talk with Brad, Jason, and whatever crazy guest they've managed to rope in. Don't forget to get the Techwebcast app from iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at Techwebcast, and of course, check us out on Facebook too. Until next time, may the tech be with you. Peace!